Hey there, Coco NOelle here. Today I'm going to make some artisan bread. I'm going to start with the master dough, and I'm going to show you the book it's inspired by. These folks have an interesting story of how they brought their technique together. It's changed the way bread making is done now, and it's pretty phenomenal to think you can take something and fix it after thousands of years of making bread a certain way. They have several. They have gluten-free recipes. They've got a cookbook totally dedicated to gluten-free. In each of their books, they have a section for gluten-free, but today we're going to stick with their standard whole wheat and added whole wheat gluten. It's called Vital Gluten. And we'll walk you through. It's just really simple to assemble. And then I'm going to kind of spice things up in a little bit here too. All right, let's see how far we get. I got a good kitchen helper today. Hello there.
Kitchen helper.
He gets to eat that bread. That big bread.
That's even better.
Coco NOelle here. We're going to work on making our artisan bread. It's pretty simple. You assemble the ingredients, and then this technique is you let the dough knead itself 2 hours room temp, and then you store it in the fridge up to 2 weeks. And then every day, after that 2 hours, you can immediately make a loaf, but every day you can pull out a grapefruit size lump of dough, stretch it in a certain fashion, pop it in a hot oven, throw in a little water to steam it, and you have beautiful bread. And there's tons of variations I've been practicing, and I'm going to dedicate this video to share over at Two Family Homestead, and let's see if we can get a little crazy with our recipes, gal. All right, I'll be right back. Okay, this recipe's been making the rounds on the internet, and it's going to start with 5 3/4 cup of wheat flour, and my little elf has already done that. So in that, I'm also going to be adding a tablespoon of yeast. So I'm going to go ahead and mix that now, and also 2 cups of all-purpose flour. That's going to go in there. And I'm going to just dump it in this bowl. This is the vessel it's going to rise and knead itself in. And if you don't mind, I'll get the spurtle from you.
Okay.
Or one of the spatulas.
There you go.
All right. So you just give this a quick stir. Kind of incorporate those ingredients together. Now I'm going to need lukewarm water, 4 cups. So I'm going to let my elf run some water from the tap.
4 cups?
4 cups, yeah. And I also have a tablespoon of salt. I use kosher. Okay. And then I'm going to need a 1/4 cup.
I don't know if that's warm enough.
Yeah, that's lukewarm.
Lukewarm?
I'm going to get it a little bit hotter though.
Okay.
I like it. Can you get me a 1/4 cup?
1/4 cup?
Yep. Thank you, sir. 1/4 cup of wheat gluten.
Okay. Okay. Put that right in there?
Yep. 1/4 cup of wheat gluten. And I get Bob's Red Mill and store it in the freezer. Now 4 cups of lukewarm water. And this is the toughest part, just trying to incorporate all of this. These spurtles are awesome because they're sturdy. You get way down to the very bottom without gooping up your hand. But I'm not afraid to get my hands goopy. Come on now. Starts to get a little stiff. I might have to ask my elf to help me.
This elfin work?
Yeah, can you give that a stir?
I guess, sir.
Thank you, sir.
I slapped the cover back on this.
All right, thank you, sir.
might not even be elven work. This might be Santa Claus work.
Something for the big guy. Does it look like you're getting most of it at the bottom?
I think so. I'm working on bringing it up. Okay, I think so.
Good enough? Okay.
Okay.
We have here.
Check.
Wash my hands real quick.
I lifted it up and taken a peek at the bottom to see if it's still.
Yeah, I might do that with my hand real quick. I'll have you hold that for me. Oh, looking good. We got a little bit of dry stuff down below, but looking good. Okay, I'll borrow that back from you.
All right.
So we will cap this and we let it sit room temp for 2 hours. And from that moment, we can begin a loaf if we want, or we can immediately refrigerate. Once you put it in the refrigerator, you leave the cap ajar. And I think you do that like for a day, and then the next, however long you keep it out there, you want to go ahead and cap it the rest of the way so it doesn't get like refrigerator burn. All right, that might be as good as I'm going to get. Now let me take a quick shot of this so you can see the dough is about this far up the canister. We'll come back in 2 hours and see how much it's risen. All right. Now, this is from a previous batch. And what I do is I save back a little bit of the dough and I use that as my starter mix. And the longer it sits, the more tang it gets, like sourdough. I'll need my immersion blender back there. Maybe get you to plug that in. I'm sorry, I forgot to do that. So we're going to rebuild from here, but I'm going to mix it up a little bit. The technique calls for 4 cups of liquid. So I'm going to add some beer to this liquid. Alright, I'll let you pour that in. This is 4 cups in head.
4 cups in head?
Yeah. So now what I do with that, go ahead and just set that aside. I'm going to use it again. I'm going to use the immersion blender and this liquid to go ahead and get that reincorporated. In the meantime, my elf can measure out.
Elf himself.
My elf can measure out a teaspoon of and all of this stuff up in here can be scraped down. That's part of the starter. Alright, let's see what we have here. Get that underway. I'll go ahead.
Put it right in?
Yep, and then I'll take
Okay.
Was that a tablespoon?
You said teaspoon.
All right, well, give me a couple more of those. I meant a tablespoon. Whoopsies. Let's see how this batch does. Okay. Let's see. Wait. Don't cap that yet. All right. Do 3 teaspoons of that and put them in here. I want to see if, I can't remember if it's 4 teaspoons.
4 or 3?
Yeah. So we shall find out. Gotta get all those little flakes off of there.
Almost looks like 2. So it's got to be 3. Okay.
Good enough. All right. Got our salt. And I'm going to have you do a 1/4 cup of that wheat gluten.
Okay. Right back, it got wet.
So this recipe called for 3 cups of liquid, but we put in 4. I'm just going to add an extra cup of rye flour. We're going to mix fennel, dill, and caraway seeds. We've got our salt, our yeast, our vital gluten. Next, we need to get my rye.
I've got the rye. Checking on the other.
Here we have 5½ cups of all-purpose flour and 2 cups of rye. Let's give that a quick fluff. All right, I'm going to have my elf help pour this in a little at a time. What a crummy elf. Soon to be crumbs. Okay, just hold it still. I'll do the pull. Just a quick stir. Go ahead. All right, I'll let you reload that. I'll just start with 4 cups of all-purpose.
4 cups of all-purpose.
So we'll stir this, cap it, and we'll be right back. We're going to do a 3rd kind. Woohoo! Okay, my elf, we're ready to cap this one.
All right.
And take it away. This batch is going to be a little bit more exotic. We're going to have some honey and beer and throw in some oats. So I'm going to start off with my beer. I need 4 cups of liquid. So what I'm going to do is count my honey as part of the liquid. I've already measured some out. Going through the honey, this has been such a hit. Now, one thing I was mistaken on was my cooking time on this. Because of the high sugar content, you have to turn the baking time down. And I had it up at 425, and it should have been 350. All right, so I still need up to 4 cups of liquid. Let's bring this on up. A little bit more. This has probably been the most popular of the breads I've played with. just because I think the sweetness has an appeal. I dump all my liquids in first, and I'm going to utilize the old dough as a starter.
That's the one you're working on? Okay.
5 3/4. You want to incorporate as much as you can of the old stuff. Get those flakes down in there. A little dried out there, but hey, they can freeze dry starter. So can we. I'll be right back when I get some of this scraped down. Hey, we can get this party started here. Then my salt and my yeast. My vital wheat gluten. 1/4 cup. I'm going to add my oats. I'll kind of leave those somewhat intact. Big old rolled oats. All right.
Okay, this is all the regular.
This is 2 cups of all-purpose flour. I meant to add that to the big one there.
I was wondering.
You were wondering. Come on, Alf, wake up. I need you to hold that for a second. Mr. Alf, we were supposed to mix those flours together. All right, you can go ahead and start. Just leave it nearby and I'll scoop. This is all wheat flour right there, 5 3/4 cup. Next. It's not going to help me if you tilt it backwards.
Sorry, last time we took 3 parts.
He's counting. We'll incorporate this and we'll be back. Exciting. This is the first batch we assembled, and this was just a master wheat loaf. And you can see how much it's already leavening and lifting itself. How long has this been?
It's been 34 minutes.
34 minutes. You let this go 2 hours at room temp before you refrigerate it. And before we refrigerate, we can pull out and make as much bread as we want. So we will make sure we grab a loaf of that. And then this was the second loaf. This has been about 15 minutes in the rise position. And we added dill, fennel, and caraway, and a rye flour base to this. So wheat, deli, rye, and then this will be a honey oat. And that one we just completed mixing. It's going to be a denser dough because of the honey, but it's by far one of the more popular breads we make. So it's very interesting, all these experiments. I love that you can play around with it. Right up my alley. And thank you to my crummy chef. He's going to scoop up all the crumbs.
Yes, I will. Scoop up all the crumbs. Get rid of all my powdery mess.
He was a big help to me. I couldn't have done this without him. So share. Which one do you think you'd like? Wheat. And keep in mind, these have like a starter mix in them from our previous batch. So they're going to have a little starter dough tang to it. We have kind of a deli rye, honey wheat. Wonder what Cher would pick. All right, we'll be back. Oh my goodness. So as you can see, this self-kneading really does work. And this has been rising for 2 hours. Not quite 2 hours, but it's getting there. And this one's catching up too. So we're going to create a loaf out of this. I'm going to show you how to quickly fashion it. And then I'm going to spritz it with water and sprinkle some herbs on top and slit it so some of the gas can escape. And then we let it rise, and I will transfer that to the oven. I'll be right back. All right. Look at that beautiful dough. Now, I'm supposed to also throw some flour on top because this will be wet. And the flour's behind me. Hang on one second. You pull out a grapefruit size of dough. It's hard to do at this angle. I guess that's good enough. And then you're going to quickly fashion it. Stretch it into a bowl, and you're stretching the top dough into the center. Then I'm going to place it on some parchment. And so this is supposed to make 4 1-pound loaves. And I'll just set that aside for a minute. When we put that outside in the refrigerator, we'll leave the lid slightly ajar, and it can off gas a little bit. So now what I like to do is spritz it with a little water. And then I've made this everything mix like you get on the edge of some of those designer pizza crusts. So sesame seeds, all sorts of garlic and herbs are in here. There's some salt. Everybody loves this mixture. So you can be liberal. And I try to get some down at the base because that bread is going to rise and grow into it. Then I'm going to cut some slits into it. Nothing fancy. And it'll rise, and we'll give this maybe 40 minutes to rise. I'll pull some of that back this way. Make sure it's evenly rising. And I'm going to make a small loaf of this too. Set that aside for a minute. I would like to try cooking some in my air fryer. And I'll probably put it in this little vessel. But when I go to cook in the air fryer, I'm going to preheat this. So when you set this on top, this will already be kind of sizzly hot. So let's get another little loaf started. Should I do one out of the dill?
Sure.
Let me do one out of the dill. Ooh, that smells good. Wow, do you hear that? Or smell that?
No, I can't smell it.
Do you hear it?
I don't hear it either.
So as you can see, it's a sloppy dough. I didn't add any flour to this one. It's going to quickly fashion a little loaf. My oven is at temp. I'm going to wash my hands, and I'll be right back. And I created a little mix. I should get a little spoon. It'd be kind of interesting to see how the air fryer does with this bread. Because I'll treat it like a convection oven, but also add a little water in the base so it steams it. Like I said, I don't mind if you get some down below because it grows into it. All right, we'll let that rise. Get a little cut in it. It's fun to see how much these rise. Okay, we'll be back. Okay, my oven's been heating for about a half an hour at 425. I moved pretty quickly here. I open this up. I've got a cast iron grill griddle here. I will transfer this on its parchment paper to that hot grill griddle. And then I have to immediately pour in the water. And that steam needs to stay in there. And then we set the timer. We're going to go 20 minutes this time. See how long that takes. Each bread loaf is a little different. In the meantime, I started my air fryer. Now let's see how we can film this. I wanted to heat this up. So I want to put some water in the bottom. And I'm going to put this inside that little vessel. And I think it's going to be too big for it, but let us see what happens. I've got it for 10 minutes. I think I'll make it 15-minute loaf at 400. We'll see what happens. Interesting. This will be very interesting to see how our little experiment works. I have a feeling the bread loaf in the air fryer is too big for the vessel I put it in. And maybe I should try putting it straight on the basket so the circulation gets around to the bottom of it. So we might have a gummy loaf. But you know my husband, he eats gummy, he eats crummy. He doesn't mind. He's a good elf tester. We'll be back.
Something smells malicious.
Delicious, eh?
Yummy.
I added more time to the air fryer and I took it off this little pan.
Okay.
'Cause I wasn't thinking the bottom was getting done enough.
Smells yummy.
Well, you'll have to come back for a taste test, monsieur.
Oh, good.
All right, let's see how this is looking. Not sure about that, if it's done all the way. Guess I could stick it back in the air fryer to make sure the bottom gets crunchy. Give it 2 minutes. In the meantime, 5 more minutes waiting for the oven. I added time to that as well. Oh, have to wait. All right, let's see how the air fryer loaf did. This is my first experience trying to put bread in the air fryer. Feels good. So I forget we're supposed to put these up on a rack. Oh. I have my racks handy. Alright, let's see. We have 2 more minutes. I think I'll go ahead and turn this off. And we'll check on one in the oven here. Looking good. So this loaf did not rise as high as they usually do. So maybe I should have let it have a little bit more time. Thinking this is hot. Now they say that you should let bread rest at least an hour before you cut into it, or all the moisture steams out. And if you let it rest for an hour, the moisture redistributes throughout the whole loaf. and they last longer that way. So I'm going to find a rack to put these on, and we'll be back in an hour to test these. I've got these up on racks. They say to not cut into your bread for an hour because all the moisture needs to redistribute throughout the whole loaf. If you cut into it now, it'll dissipate pretty quickly and your bread will get stale. But the reason they want you up on a rack is look at how much moisture was left underneath that one loaf. So that would have been the soggy bottom loaf. Anyway, it should be interesting. I was surprised this didn't rise as tall. Maybe I should have given it more preliminary rise time, but it looks good. And this will be our basic wheat with kind of an everything sprinkle on top. This is our kind of a designer deli with fennel, caraway, and dill on a rye loaf. So air fryer, conventional oven. Both have a nice thump to them. I act like I know what I'm doing. I'm not a breadsmith. But I'm learning, and this is so much fun. So if I can do it, you can do it. We'll be back when we cut into it. Do the test here. How hard is it?
Nice and crunchy on the outside.
Is it too hard?
Oh, no. Let's see. Should I take one little piece of this and the other one's bigger?
Yeah, turn it so we can see the crumb.
Okay.
Oh, that's not too bad.
No.
Okay, that was air fryer.
That's nice. It's turned out
so let's
well
see.
done. So let's
15.
try this one.
I did 19 minutes on that loaf.
Okay. So let's see here.
Kind of played around with flipping it back and forth too. So.
Yeah, you did, didn't you?
I did, yeah. I think next time I won't put that vessel underneath it.
Okay. So there's a nice little. What do you call those little sticks? Dessert sticks that.
Oh, biscotti. Yeah. It does look like a biscotti.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Let's see. Hey, that's not enough bread for me. We're talking bread. B-R-E-A-D. All right.
Looking good.
I'm sorry. Spin that around.
All right.
Looks nice.
So yeah, I think the crumb on both of them looks pretty good. Very interesting, huh? So I can't wait to see what happens. You see where I put the butter, right?
Yep. Thank you.
Sure thing. Can't wait to get the taste test here.
Uh-oh. This is giving up a fight. Yeah.
Let's see.
I can't butter it at angles. You know that.
Do you want to air fry that soft again, or?
No, that should be fine.
All right.
Can I have some pickle on it though?
Pickle. All right.
Some dill. Let's put some dill on this, man.
You know, I probably should have put some dill weed in there. Now that I think about
you
it.
put dill seed on the one, right?
I know. Let's see.
Dill rye.
Yeah.
What's that? This one?
Well, you'll find out. I can't tell. Yeah, that little guy.
Okay. And looking good.
Maybe if I let it have a little bit more preliminary rise time. So hopefully that's got a little chewiness to it.
Yeah, it's got chewiness.
Okay.
Nice crunchy crust. Soft on the inside. Very good flavor.
Okay, yeah. How was it with the fennel? I'll try a little nibble.
Let me butter you up.
I do like that chewiness.
All right.
What do you think if I add a little honey to that?
Might be okay.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Can't hurt. Yeah, I mean, I like my bread unsweet
it really
a lot of
almost
times,
has that pumpernickel flavor without the other ingredients for pumpernickel.
Too. Try this one.
So this is regular wheat. Mm-hmm. Nice chew to it. All right.
Good job.
Winner.
Thank you.
Crummy dinner.
Mm-hmm.